Can I use your bathroom?
Patrick, go use your own bathroom.
I don't think I can make it, please?
No.
Please?
No.
Please?
No.
Please?
Okay, make it quick.
That's okay.
Ahoy, mateys, and welcome to another episode of I'm Ready, a SpongeBob Squarecast. My name is Captain Eric, and we are continuing our sail through the third season of SpongeBob SquarePants. Today's episode is the Snowball Effect, the first half of the 46th episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. It first premiered on February 22nd, 2002, and is written by Paul Tibbitt, Kent Osborne, and Meriwether Williams. Our storyboard artists are Carson Kielgler, William Reese, and Mike Roth. Our storyboard directors are Paul Tibbitt and Kent Osborne. Our animation director is Andrew Overtomb, and our creative director is Derek Dryman. When it comes down to it, the same energy that is throughout the Snowball Effect is the same kind of energy that I've mentioned a few times before that is my favorite kind of SpongeBob episode. That energy that comes when it is just SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward pretty much at their homes and where the episode kind of has to stay right there on Conch Street and kind of build off of just these characters and what they're doing in their yards. Those, to me, are some of the best episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants. Whether it be in the morning, whether they're camping at night, or whether they're having a snowball fight during a snow day in Bikini Bottom, which is pretty much what happens here. What happens when we get a snow day in the town, and we do get a nice little montage of different characters and what happens, you know, how snow affects their days. For some, it does nothing, and for others, it's pretty detrimental. To start, the fact that this is the fourth time we've actually had snow in the show up to this point of SpongeBob SquarePants, which, by the way, is the number one binged show on Paramount Plus. They put out an end of year kind of results, kind of touting all their best of, and SpongeBob SquarePants is the number one binged show on their platform. Think about that. Think about all of the different content on that platform, the different franchises that have been around for decades, all of the Star Trek, all of it. Now, Star Trek Discovery, I think, is their most watched original show. But yeah, SpongeBob SquarePants, number one binged show on Paramount Plus. That's a pretty high feat there. So I imagine the Snowball Effect has to have been watched a bunch of times. But yeah, this is the fourth time that we've had snow on this show, and the second time up to this point that the snow has been outside of Sandy's tree dome. Now, on two occasions, snow has been kind of enclosed within Sandy's tree dome. Some kind of comedic effect where during the times of year where it would snow, I'm guessing during our normal times of December all the way to kind of the end of March time, I guess Sandy experiences some snow in her tree dome, but on rare occasions, an iceberg can find its way over to Bikini Atoll up atop, which means that snow begins to fall over Bikini Bottom. The idea of snow is brought to the world of Bikini Bottom, and we get a lot of one-off jokes with a bunch of different characters. We get one of Mrs. Puff cleaning the snow off of her car, which is a great joke because if you, like myself, if you live anywhere that deals with snow during these kind of months during the year, one of the most annoying parts can be either shoveling your snow, clearing the snow off your car, having to go out extra early, and in some cases, depending on the snowfall, it's smart to go out multiple times during the night or even during the morning to clean off your car, just so that when you have to leave, you could just go at your normal time, or a little earlier to obviously slow down on the roads and whatnot. But the fact that Mrs. Puff can just walk up to her car and in one massive blow of, she's a puffer fish, so she's able to finally able to use her puffer fish powers without, an accident having to happen. So she's able to just blow all of the snow right off of her car onto someone else's for comedic effect, obviously. But we also get Plankton, who wants to rule the snow. I don't know what his thoughts are, why, I don't know if this is his first time seeing snow, but Plankton is actually smaller than the snow particles, so they end up piling on top of him, and he ends up covered under the snow. I hope he's okay. Obviously he is, but it's kind of funny that snow for everybody is an annoyance, but for Plankton it's super detrimental for his health. I would advise him to just stay indoors during this time. Beyond them, we get Patrick trying to make a snow angel, which of course turns out to just be a massive circle indent into the snow. We don't get to see much. We see Mr. Krabs' house. We don't get a lot of interaction with Mr. Krabs in this episode. He is brought up, and we do see his house all adorned in snow during the opening montage where we see Bikini Bottom covered in snowfall. Which, by the way, the color palette, snow is easy. Like the color of winter is obviously in thought easy to do, but in practice, when it comes to painting a picture, painting a landscape, when it comes to winter, it can be the trickiest to get right. And I think that underwater, the winter aesthetic in Bikini Bottom comes off gorgeous. There's a little bit more of a gray tone to the backgrounds than there would be where there would be more light blues. There's more light grays, and that alongside the snow look on the buildings just comes off beautifully. Like it just, I love the feeling of this episode. It's not necessarily a Christmas episode, but it's one I like to watch around the winter season because the look of it alone just fits so well. The Also, there's a nice visual gag here with there's a stop sign, one that it clearly is automated. There's no caution part of their light system. It's just stop and go. But I like that the snow on the wing of the sign stays on it, even though it retracts into the housing part of the stop sign, and when the other part comes back up, the snowfall is just still there. I little visual gags like that I always love. It's one of those things that even when you're showing it with people, if you're showing this kind of episode to a group, the visual learners by the people who might chuckle at that kind of visual gag. And sometimes something like that just goes over the head of other people. You might have to point it out, like, hey, have you ever noticed that? And some people, yeah, they just, for some reason, just miss those kind of jokes. But I like that there. So yeah, we don't get a lot of Mr. Krabs, but they spotlight, we get the Mrs. Puff, we get the Plankton, we get a little bit of extra Patrick here on his own with the snowfall, and it's adorable that he wants to make a snow angel, and the fact that it's an idea in his head to do that with snow. But SpongeBob immediately starts a snowball fight with Patrick. And that's kind of the simple synopsis of this episode, really, is that we have a snowball fight between SpongeBob and Patrick, and how wacky that can get. There's no way that this episode isn't built off of the Survival of the Idiots episode, in which SpongeBob and Patrick had a bit of a fun rivalry throughout that episode within the tree dome structure with the snow. And this is kind of the evolution of that. Hey, what are they doing in their own yards with snow, and how do they take a simple snowball fight up to their level, and then how does Squidward get involved? That's always a fun thing. Classically, though, Squidward gets involved simply just by telling SpongeBob and Patrick to lower their voices, to stop being so loud, and also the fact that they keep throwing snowballs into his window and completely taking out his fire. Squidward is enjoying his day off. It's clearly a snow day. I'm guessing the Krusty Krab is just closed, and he's doing what I think all of us would want to do during a snow day: sit by a nice fire and a cozy sweater, have some tea, coffee, hot chocolate. I mean, that sounds really ideal. I mean, get some movies going during that time as well, and you got yourself a nice snow day. But hey, look, a fireplace with a roaring fire, you can't beat that. No electric heat or any other heating method in your home can beat having an actual fire. Those who own fireplaces, have said that, the maintenance in that thing can be kind of a hassle. If I at least I think if you're not taking care of it over time, it can be a hassle. But that's a running gag throughout this episode. It happens 3 times. Classically, comedy comes in threes. But yeah, Snowball coming through the window, knocking out Squidward's fire. It's hilarious each and every time, even when it's at the hand of Squidward himself. But he's just yelling at SpongeBob and Patrick to calm down on this snowball fight, because of course, as SpongeBob and Patrick are beaming each other with snowballs, it goes through a few classic SpongeBob moments. For example, the fact that Patrick has the inability of making snowballs. He's so dumb that he's unable to make a snowball, but he is able to make a snow square, a snow triangle, and a snow DNA strand. That, little visual jokes like that, and just to keep the joke with Patrick that he's just so dumb that he's able to do monumentally incredible things like a DNA strand out of snow in the kind of time that he did. That's so incredible. But making a snowball, no, he's just unable to do it. And the fact that they keep that joke throughout the entire episode, if you notice any pile of snowballs near Patrick, they are not snowballs. They go with the snow squares. That's his specialty, and he's sticking with it. And honestly, if I could make a snow square, if I was in a snowball fight, if I could quickly make a snow square as quickly as Patrick could, I would rather throw those. Maybe those those would hurt in a different way than the snowball would. Not that they're meant to hurt, but maybe just the impact would feel a little bit different getting pelted with a snow cube than a snowball. But yeah, I the fact that we start with that joke going into their eventual war is great, and that the fact that joke continues throughout this episode is nice to see. Now, both SpongeBob and Patrick get some pretty heavy shots on one another, and there's some pretty good impacts with the snow on both characters. But when SpongeBob gets hit with this one snowball by Patrick and sends him into the snow, and we've all been there as a kid. If you definitely can remember moments, I'm not talking even specifically, just know the feeling when you would get hit with like a dodgeball or a snowball, and it would hit you usually in the nose, but it would hit you in the right way where it would just send you in a rage, like you just wanted to pelt the other person. And SpongeBob got hit with a snowball in the face just like that. That when he got back up, he decided that this was wartime. This was time to take it up to the next level. It was time, not time to mess around anymore. SpongeBob decided to take off his adorned Christmas hat, which I like that he was wearing the little Santa hat throughout the episode. Even like I said, even though there was no Christmas aesthetic in this episode, it was not really about the holiday. The fact that there was snow and SpongeBob and Gary would wear little Santa hats to instead of just having a regular winter hat is nice. I like that they're still representing the holiday at this time. But he takes off his hat to reveal a funnel that he fills up with snow and places on the top of his head, with SpongeBob turning his entire body into a snow Gatling gun, able to pelt Patrick with snowballs so quickly, at such a velocity and at such a rate of fire, that he is not only pelted with snowballs, but then is swallowing snowballs at such a high speed that there's even this nice little slow-mo zoom in of the back of Patrick's throat, where you can see like the impact of the snowballs pelting the back of his throat, to the point that eventually snowballs are filling his mouth enough that he is choking on this massive mouthful of snowballs. He runs over to Squidward's house. It's the closest home to him, and he's trying to tell Squidward that he's choking, but Squidward is just taking it as charades, and kind of meanly. Like, I think it's obvious that Patrick is choking, but Squidward is just ignoring this fact. That, or he truly doesn't care, that he doesn't even realize the fact that Patrick is choking. But of course, with snow, it's just water, and the inside of your mouth is pretty warm, so the snow is just going to melt, and eventually the snow melts enough that Patrick is able to swallow the water down, and then tells Squidward all of that exact information that I just told you, which is actually pretty funny. Like, this whole dialogue scene right here is hilarious. Which, because Patrick drank all of that water, we also just get a classic little bathroom joke here of him having to use the bathroom. and going through back and forth, Squidward telling him no, he can't use his bathroom, and Patrick asking that he really has to go, before Patrick, letting him know that he doesn't have to anymore, meaning Patrick just peed his pants. But they have bathrooms, which is nice, but they're also in the ocean, and I don't know. I don't know the rules or what's accepted in this world, but I think Patrick's okay just freely peeing his pants. And if anybody has seen Billy Madison, peeing your pants is cool. And if you do that, consider yourself Miles Davis if you can do it up to a certain level. But I imagine Patrick is at a Miles Davis level of peeing his pants. Now that Squidward is outside and is agitated, he's been bothered so many times. His fire keeps getting put out by snowballs. He dresses down SpongeBob and Patrick on being children for engaging in a snowball fight, and just tells them if they want to go knock their brains out with snowballs, to go do it. You should just do that. After he shuts his door, he overhears Patrick proudly yell, like, "Yeah, let's go knock each other's brains out." And Squidward thinks to himself, and we get to see his thoughts of SpongeBob actually getting his brain knocked out of his head by a snowball, and then telling Patrick like it's his turn. Squidward is pleased at the thought of the two hurting themselves with snowballs, and decides, what? If I'm going to be bothered by these two and their snowball war, I might as well watch it. So he decides to perch himself by his window to watch at their ongoing feud. But what happens is, when Squidward decides to find enjoyment in what SpongeBob and Patrick are doing, of course, it decides to change. SpongeBob and Patrick now are shaking hands in a treaty. A treaty that was made between the two sides in a peaceful manner, because yes, a snowball fight is very childish. Squidward finds this out himself as he runs outside, yelling at the two as to why they're signing this peace treaty. Like, he basically helped make this peace treaty happen by yelling at them, and of course now he can't have his fun of watching them have a snowball fight. And here's the thing, here's the classic Squidward mentality. It's like, this guy just never can win. Okay, they're done playing snowball fight. They're going to move on to something else. You can now enjoy your day. Squidward, go do your own thing. But no, he has to keeps putting his nose in SpongeBob and Patrick's business. And now he's, basically forcing them to do the snowball fight again. He rips up the treaty, which ends up just being a copy of the peace treaty. And then he tries to, reenact like the start of the snowball fight, and the fact that he's going to play the role of SpongeBob. Patrick is Patrick, and then he throws a snowball at Patrick's face, then asks Patrick what he's going to do now, and Patrick rightfully throws a snowball in Squidward's face, even though he said he was SpongeBob. I don't, like, he didn't explain that he was done being SpongeBob. Like, these guys take these kind of games seriously. For some reason, Squidward does not remember the episode in which they all became Squidward, the opposite day episode. Like, these guys take this stuff seriously. So if you're going to start a game and say that you're SpongeBob and you're going to throw a snowball at Patrick, he's not going to turn and throw a snowball to the physical SpongeBob, who then started calling himself Mr. Krabs in this game. Squidward does a horrible job at starting the snowball fight, and eventually ends up getting involved in this snowball fight, not as a third party, but against both SpongeBob and Patrick. I mean, since they signed a treaty, they are now, together peacefully on the same team, and Squidward seems to be the agitated one, throwing snowballs and whatnot, which eventually Squidward just is almost forced to just get involved at almost every step that he tries to just kind of start it for them to and then get away. They almost make him get involved even more by making him build a fort, and then when it's not good enough, make him build it up even more, and then it's still not good enough. And this brings up the whole title of the episode, The Snowball Effect, which, for those who haven't heard of it, is a metaphor explaining that like the idea of a snowball. If you're to roll a snowball on snow, and it starts out really small, and you roll it, what is it going to do? It's going to pick up more snow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the snowball effect, when a situation can start out very small and grow bigger and bigger. And it doesn't have to be a negative situation. It can be a positive situation, but that's snowball effect. Something, if you don't take care of something now, it can usually grow out of proportion. And usually that's what happens with Squidward is he takes something small and blows it out of proportion, because when Squidward now fully gets involved with this snowball fight, he takes it to such an unhealthy level that SpongeBob and Patrick just tap out of it. Which is the comedy of it all, which is just the emphasis on Squidward as a whole. Like, anytime he gets involved with these two and with what he wants to do, he takes it to a whole new level, and it ends up taking it to a level that no one else wants to be involved with it. It's just Squidward in a nutshell, and it is the snowball effect of Squidward. It's a nicely packed episode. It's short, sweet, to the point, and it takes, I think, the snow element to a really fun level. Now, Squidward here builds his fort to massive proportions, while SpongeBob and Patrick kind of dart away because they decide, we're kind of done with this. And Squidward continually thinks he's being attacked by SpongeBob and Patrick by snow falling on his head, and he builds his fort to a level that is higher than any of the houses on Con Street, and it is guarded on all sides. It's literally this giant cylinder that's coming out of the ground with Squidward's head poking out of the top. But the snow that keeps falling on his head is coming from this even massive tree that is literally only there for this kind of bit, but it's to show like Squidward continually thinking that he's under attack and he's in war, and he's turning it to 11. And while SpongeBob and Patrick got away, they are now, sitting in SpongeBob's house, sitting around the television with towels and, I'm gonna guess, hot cocoa, and they're just hearing Squidward having fun outside, and they're glad that Squidward is having fun out in the snow, but they got away, and they're just enjoying themselves all cozily inside of SpongeBob's home. And it's a classic feeling episode, and it's the kind of formula that will work 10, 20 years from now if SpongeBob is to continue this long. I mean, look, that kind of thought, I know, might not seem like the greatest thing to some people, but hey, this kind of formula with SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward will always work, no matter what kind of games or situations that you want to put for them to play with on Con Street. If SpongeBob and Patrick are annoying Squidward, and Squidward gets involved, and it blows out of proportion in Squidward's face, and SpongeBob and Patrick walk away unscathed, that right there is just a blueprint that is genuinely SpongeBob SquarePants. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the snowball effect. It's I wouldn't say it, I don't know, maybe this hits top 10 for me, more closer to the 10 side, but I like its simplicity, but I love that it takes the snowball element to its fullest extent for these characters. I really genuinely love that they allowed SpongeBob and Patrick to kind of have this ongoing snow war that we got to just kind of taste in Survival of the Idiots a little bit, but now we get to see it to its fullest, and I would love to see more snow episodes like this. I really, for some people, the duller grays of the skies, the snow, might not seem that appealing, but for me, it's one of the more beautiful environments. I like, that's the one thing is, after the first snowfall, if all of the leaves have fallen off the trees after the first snowfall, and if it's not that much, it's just enough to kind of coat the ground and where all the branches can be covered with a bit of snow. When you look outside of your window on a nice crisp morning, it's a beautiful sight. Like that first snowfall, that beautiful first snowfall is just, when you can just soak it in for a moment, it's nice to see. And even if the sky is a little bit on the grayer end, it's still a beautiful sight, at least for me. I know it's not for everybody. If you're in the warmer states, it's probably not for you, but I know that there's those out there in New England and probably other snowy parts of the world who can admire the snowy aesthetic and even sometimes the beautiful grays that can adorn our skies. But that is this week for the Squarecast. My name is Captain Eric. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a part of my life. Thank you for listening to this episode of this podcast. If there is any way that you can support this show by liking or subscribing, any of that stuff, nothing monetarily will ever be needed to support me or the content I create. Checking it out is even just a help in that regard. So in the podcast description, there will be links of any of the wide variety of things I'm doing, and if you check any of those out, it is always appreciated. So thank you very much. I hope you are all staying safe. I hope you are keeping your loved ones safe. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you here next week. I hope you all had a wonderful new year. Let's enjoy 2022 together. See you next week, mateys. Have a good one.
Victory is mine! Whoa, I got you now!
Did you hear something, Patrick?
Nope.